My wife gave me the worst bedroom on our honeymoon. She had no idea I owned the motel. Before I tell you how everything unfolded, do me a small favor, stick around, and if you enjoy stories like this, show some support so more people can find it too. I'm Aaron Whitmore. I'm 27. And the night my wife handed me the worst room on what was supposed to be our honeymoon, I realized something had been wrong in my marriage long before we ever packed our bags. The Seabreeze Motor Lodge sat right on the edge of Clearwater Bay, salt air drifting through the parking lot, neon sign humming softly like it had for decades. Most people saw it as a charming coastal motel, fresh paint, clean rooms, nothing flashy. To me, it was something else entirely. It was my grandfather Harold's life's work. And 6 months earlier, it quietly became mine. No one in Vanessa's family knew that. Vanessa and I had married fast. Too fast, if I'm being honest. She was charming, confident, and very sure of herself. I mistook that certainty for strength. Our honeymoon was her idea, Florida coast, somewhere simple but classy, she said. When she picked Seabreeze, I almost laughed at the irony. Instead, I said nothing. We checked in just after sunset. Kyle Benton, the manager, looked up from the desk and froze for half a second when he saw me. His eyes flicked to Vanessa, then back to me. I gave him the smallest shake of my head. He understood. We'd agreed, no special treatment. Not this week. Welcome to Seabreeze, Kyle said warmly. Reservation under Whitmore? Vanessa answered before I could. Yes, but we'll need 2 keys. And just to be clear, my husband doesn't need anything special. She smiled when she said it. The kind of smile that sounds polite but lands sharp. Kyle handed over the keys. Room 12, he said carefully. Ground floor. Vanessa glanced at the number and smirked. Perfect. I already knew what room 12 was. Smallest unit on the property. Window facing the service alley. Ice machine buzzing all night. Laundry room right next door. It was the room we kept for emergencies, overbookings, or staff overflow. As we walked, Vanessa slowed her pace, letting the sound of rolling suitcases fill the silence. You know, she said casually, I upgraded myself. I stopped. Yourself? She nodded toward the second-floor balcony where a larger corner room overlooked the water. Ocean view queen. It's quieter. I need my rest. And me? She finally looked at me, eyes cool. You'll be fine down here. You're not picky. Besides, it's just sleeping. Just sleeping. On our honeymoon. Inside room 12, the air smelled faintly of detergent. One narrow bed. Thin curtains. The hum of machines behind the wall already vibrating through the floor. Vanessa set her bag down, glanced around, and sighed dramatically. Yeah, this fits. Fits what? I asked. She shrugged. You're not really a luxury person. That wasn't true. I just never needed to prove anything. She picked up her smaller bag. I'll be upstairs. Don't stay up too late. Ice machine gets loud. And just like that, she left. I sat on the edge of the bed and listened to the machine cycle next door. I wasn't angry yet. Mostly, I was curious. Because this wasn't new behavior. It was just clearer now. Kyle knocked a few minutes later. You okay, Aaron? He asked quietly. I'm fine, I said. Let it play out. He hesitated. Your grandfather wouldn't have liked this. I smiled faintly. He told me people always reveal themselves when they think they're in control. That night, Vanessa posted photos from the balcony. Sunset. Wine glass. Caption about, finally getting the room I deserve. I wasn't tagged. The next morning, we met for breakfast near the lobby cafe. Vanessa looked refreshed. I looked like I'd slept next to a washing machine, which I had. She eyed my coffee. You should have upgraded yourself if you cared that much. I didn't think I needed to, I said. She laughed lightly. You always expect things to just work out. Over the next 2 days, the pattern continued. She booked spa appointments for herself. I was told they were full when I asked. She arranged boat tours with her family who'd coincidentally decided to visit. I got the leftover seat or none at all. Every staff member noticed. Every staff member said nothing. Until the 3rd night. Vanessa invited her parents and brother Mark to dinner at the motel restaurant. Best table. Best wine. I arrived last, after being told to come when you're done with whatever you do all day. Mark looked me up and down. Still doing that design thing? Yeah, I said. Still working. Vanessa laughed. He keeps busy. Kyle approached the table. Everything satisfactory? Vanessa didn't even look at him. Fine. Kyle turned to me. And for you, sir? Perfect, I replied. Vanessa frowned. Why are they always so attentive to you? I shrugged. Maybe I tip well. Later that night, back in room 12, I sat on the bed and thought about my grandfather. About how he taught me that ownership wasn't about power, it was about responsibility. About knowing when to speak, and when silence taught more. I wasn't ready to speak yet. But I was getting close. And Vanessa had no idea that every insult, every small decision, every downgrade was happening under a roof that carried my name. The next morning started the same way the last two had, Vanessa waking up refreshed, me waking up irritated but quiet. The ice machine had done its job all night, rattling like it had a personal vendetta against sleep. When I stepped out of room 12, Kyle was already in the corridor, pretending to check a maintenance panel. "You don't have to keep doing this," he said under his breath. "I do," I replied. "Just a little longer." He nodded, though I could tell it bothered him. It bothered the staff more than it bothered me, which was saying something. Vanessa was already waiting by the outdoor cafe, sunglasses on, scrolling her phone. Mark and her parents, Linda and Robert, had arrived late the night before and taken 2 adjoining ocean view rooms. Vanessa waved me over without looking up. "You're late," she said. "I just got here," I replied, pulling out a chair. She sighed like I'd already disappointed her. "We're doing the boat tour in an hour. Mark booked it. There were only 4 seats, so," she trailed off. "So I'm not going," I finished. Linda finally looked at me, lips pressed tight. "It's nothing personal, Aaron. You understand how these things work." I did understand. I always understood. That was the problem. "That's fine," I said calmly. "I'll stay back." Mark smirked. "Probably better. Son's rough on people who don't leave their computers much." Vanessa laughed. Not nervously. Comfortably. After they left, Kyle brought me coffee on the house. "Your grandfather used to say," he told me, "that respect isn't something you ask for. It's something people give away without realizing it." I watched the boat pull away from the dock. He was right. That afternoon, Vanessa texted me pictures. Champagne. Laughter. Her leaning against Mark like he was the one she'd married. The caption read, "Best honeymoon vibes." I didn't respond. Instead, I walked the property. Quietly. Watching. Listening. Staff interactions were polite with my in-laws, surface level. With me, they were careful. Almost protective. Vanessa noticed that by dinner. "Why do they keep checking on you?" she asked sharply as a server refilled my water for the 3rd time. "They're just doing their jobs," I said. She leaned closer. "Don't embarrass me. You're acting weird." "Am I?" I asked. "Yes. Quiet. Smug." I smiled faintly. "Maybe I'm just observant." Dinner turned into another comparison session. Mark's investments. Vanessa's sacrifices. Linda's comments about how lucky I was to have married into their family. "You've definitely upgraded," Robert said, raising his glass to Vanessa. She squeezed his hand. I had potential. No one toasted me. Later that night, Vanessa didn't come down. I lay in room 12 staring at the ceiling, thinking about how fast admiration turns into entitlement when someone believes they're above you. On the 4th day, things escalated. Vanessa decided we should reset the honeymoon. Her idea of a reset involved inviting her entire immediate family to stay for the rest of the week, on my honeymoon. "Their family," she said. "You don't mind." I did mind. But I didn't argue. Rooms were reassigned. Not mine, of course. Room 12 stayed mine. Vanessa's parents upgraded. Mark got a corner suite because he needs space to work. That was the moment Kyle finally pulled me aside. "Aaron," he said firmly, "this is getting out of hand." "I know," I replied. "They're treating you like a guest in your own place." I nodded. "That's the point. What are you waiting for?" For the truth to hurt enough that it sticks. That night, Vanessa confronted me. "You're embarrassing me," she said, arms crossed, standing in the doorway of room 12. "My family is starting to ask questions." "What kind of questions?" I asked. "Why the staff treats you like you matter." I looked up at her. "Don't I?" She scoffed. "You're sensitive. You always have been." I stood slowly. "Vanessa, why did you give me this room?" She hesitated, just for a second. "Because it made sense." "For who?" "For us," she snapped. "Someone had to be practical." I nodded. "Okay." That seemed to unnerve her more than anger would have. The next day, Linda tried a different tactic, pity. "You don't seem happy," she said softly while Vanessa was away. "Marriage is about compromise." "I agree," I replied. "And sometimes," she continued, "people need to accept their place." There it was. That afternoon, Mark cornered me near the pool. "Look," he said, lowering his voice. "Vanessa married you because you're stable. That counts for something." I met his eyes. "Does it?" He smirked. "Just don't get ideas above your station." That was the moment I decided. Not out of anger. Out of clarity. That night, Kyle knocked again. It's time, he said. I looked at my phone. Vanessa had just posted another photo, this time of herself in the suite, captioned finally upgraded from the basics. I stood up. Tomorrow, I said. At breakfast. Kyle nodded. I'll make sure everyone's there. As he walked away, I sat back on the bed, listening to the machine's hum. Room 12 had served its purpose. They'd shown me exactly who they were when they thought I was nothing. And the next morning, they were finally going to learn who I actually was. Breakfast the next morning felt staged, like a scene where everyone knew their lines except me. The long table near the glass wall had been set for 8. Vanessa sat at the head beside her mother, scrolling her phone. Mark leaned back in his chair, sunglasses still on, coffee untouched. Robert was mid-complaint about the boat tour being too short for the price. Room 12 was empty behind me for the first time. Kyle stood near the bar, pretending to organize menus. I gave him a small nod. That was all it took. I took my seat quietly. No one acknowledged me at first. That was normal. So, Linda said, tapping her spoon against her cup, we were thinking of extending our stay. This place grows on you. Vanessa smiled. I told you. Once you know how to do it right, it's perfect. I looked up. Do it right? She glanced at me, eyes sharp. You know what I mean. I did. Mark chuckled. Some people are just built for better rooms. The server approached, a young woman named Elise. She hesitated when she reached me, then spoke carefully. Mr. Hale, would you like your usual? Vanessa frowned. Usual? I smiled politely. Yes, thank you. Elise nodded and left. Vanessa leaned toward me. Why does she know your name? Because I've been polite, I said. That's not an answer. Before I could respond, Kyle stepped forward. Good morning, everyone, he said evenly. Apologies for the interruption. We'll be starting shortly. Starting what? Robert asked. Kyle looked at me. I stood. The movement alone drew attention. Vanessa's smile faded. Linda straightened. Mark finally removed his sunglasses. I asked everyone to be here, I said calmly, because there's been a misunderstanding all week. Vanessa laughed once. Aaron, don't do this now. Do what? I asked. Speak. Her jaw tightened. You're making a scene. No, I said. I've been avoiding one. I turned slightly so I could see all of them. The dining area had gone quiet. Other guests watched openly now. Staff had paused where they stood. For our honeymoon, I continued, I was given the smallest, noisiest room on the property. Vanessa crossed her arms. Here we go. I was told it made sense, I said. That I didn't need more. That others did. Linda shook her head. You're exaggerating. I'm not, I replied. But that's not the point. I looked directly at Vanessa. The point is that you were comfortable doing it. She stood abruptly. Enough. If this is about money or insecurity. It's not, I said gently. It's about respect. Mark scoffed. You don't earn respect by whining. Kyle cleared his throat. With all due respect, he said, Mr. Hale isn't whining. Vanessa spun toward him. Stay out of this. Kyle didn't move. I can't. I nodded. Kyle, if you would. He gestured toward the far end of the room. Another man approached, older, composed, wearing a tailored jacket. Vanessa blinked. Is that? She murmured. The man stopped beside me. Good morning, he said. I'm Thomas Reed, legal counsel. Vanessa laughed again, this time uncertain. Okay, what is this? Some kind of joke? I shook my head. No. Thomas opened a folder. 6 months ago, he said clearly, ownership of this property transferred under a private trust. Vanessa's smile froze. The beneficiary, Thomas continued, is Aaron Hale. Silence fell like a dropped glass. Mark let out a sharp laugh. That's impossible. It's not, Thomas replied. The documentation is airtight. Linda stood slowly. You're saying, this motel is my motel, I said quietly. Vanessa stared at me. That's not funny. I'm not joking. She looked around, waiting for someone to laugh. No one did. You stayed in that room, she whispered, on purpose? Yes. Why? Robert demanded. Because I wanted to know, I said, how you'd treat me if you thought I had nothing. Mark's face reddened. This is insane. You let us act? I didn't let you, I corrected. You chose to. Vanessa's voice trembled. You lied to me. I didn't, I said. You never asked. She shook her head violently. You humiliated me. I met her eyes. You humiliated me first. Repeatedly. Comfortably. Linda stepped forward. Aaron, surely we can talk about this privately. We are, I said. This is the truth. There's nothing private left. Kyle spoke again. Mr. Hale asked that everyone experience the property as guests, not knowing who owned it. Mark snapped, so this was some test? No, I said. It was a mirror. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears, but there was anger behind them. So what now? You throw us out? I won't, I said. That's not why I did this. Then why? She demanded. I exhaled slowly. Because I married you hoping we were equals. And I needed to know if that was ever true. She didn't answer. The silence stretched until it became unbearable. Thomas closed his folder. I'll give you time. He stepped away with Kyle. Vanessa sank back into her chair. I don't even know who you are. I nodded. That makes two of us. No one finished breakfast. Later that day, the resort buzzed with quiet tension. Staff avoided the family entirely. Vanessa stayed in the suite, door closed. Her parents whispered by the pool. Mark paced, making calls. I walked the property alone. Every corner felt different now that the truth was out. Not powerful. Clear. That evening, Vanessa finally came to find me. You planned this, she said flatly. I planned to stay quiet, I replied. Everything else came from you. She sat across from me. Do you love me? I thought carefully. I loved who I thought you were. Her eyes dropped. I don't know what happens next, she said. Neither do I replied. But I know this, whatever comes next won't involve me shrinking so you can feel tall. She didn't argue. Outside, the ocean was calm. Inside, everything had finally been exposed. By the next morning, the motel felt like a different place, not because anything physical had changed, but because the illusion was gone. People move differently when they realize the ground beneath them isn't what they thought it was. Vanessa didn't come down for breakfast. Her parents did. They sat across from me in the small outdoor dining area, the one that overlooked the water but never quite got full sun. Linda kept smoothing the napkin in her lap. Robert stared out toward the parking lot like he was waiting for a tow truck that wasn't coming. No one spoke for a while. Finally, Linda cleared her throat. Aaron, we didn't know. I took a sip of coffee. You didn't ask. That's not fair, she said quickly. We assumed. Yes, I replied. You assumed. Robert finally turned toward me. Why didn't you tell Vanessa before the wedding? I looked at him steadily. Why didn't you ask who was paying for the renovations your daughter bragged about last year? That landed. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Linda leaned forward. Look, what happened with the room, that was poor judgment. But marriages are complicated. You don't blow everything up over one mistake. One mistake? I repeated quietly. She winced. I set my cup down. Your daughter didn't just choose a room. She chose a narrative. One where I was less than her. One where it was okay to belittle me in front of you, in front of staff, on what was supposed to be our honeymoon. Robert sighed. Vanessa's always been strong-willed. No, I said calmly. She's been enabled. That ended the conversation. They left shortly after, claiming they needed a walk. I knew what that meant. Damage control. Phone calls. Reframing the story. By noon, Mark cornered me near the pool. So this is it, he said, arms crossed. You let us all look like idiots. You did that yourselves, I replied. He scoffed. You think owning a motel makes you better than us? No, I said. But I think how you treated someone you believed had nothing says everything about who you are. He stepped closer. You're enjoying this. I shook my head. I'm exhausted. That seemed to throw him off more than anger would have. Vanessa finally emerged that afternoon. She looked smaller somehow. No makeup. Hair pulled back. She stood at the edge of the courtyard like she wasn't sure she was allowed there. Aaron, she said. I didn't move. I've been thinking, she continued. About everything. I waited. I grew up believing love came with conditions, she said quietly. Achievement. Appearances. Control. I said nothing. When you didn't push back? I thought that meant you agreed with how I saw you. That's the problem, I replied. You never saw me. She swallowed. I want to fix this. I looked at her for a long moment. Do you want to fix us, or do you want to fix how this makes you look? She didn't answer right away. I don't know, she admitted. At least it was honest. That night, I moved my things out of room 12. Not into the suite. Into the office above the main building, the one that had been mine since before the wedding. The space where contracts were signed, staff meetings held, decisions made. It felt right to sleep there. Grounded. Neutral. Vanessa noticed. You're leaving me? She asked when she saw my bags. I'm giving us space, I said. Real space. Not symbolic gestures. She nodded slowly. The following day, I held a staff meeting. Not because I needed to, but because I owed them clarity. I want to be clear, I told them. No one here did anything wrong. You followed instructions. That's your job. What happens next has nothing to do with loyalty tests or sides. Kyle met my eyes. Grateful. I will not tolerate disrespect toward any guest or employee, I continued. Including me. There were nods around the room. Afterward, Thomas called. The trust allows you full discretion, he reminded me. Including personal matters. I know, I said. That evening, Vanessa asked to talk again. This time, she didn't accuse. She asked. Did you ever feel loved by me? She said. I thought carefully. I felt useful. I felt convenient. I felt manageable. Tears welled in her eyes. That's not the same, she whispered. No, I agreed. It's not. She sat beside me, leaving space between us. If I let go of control, if I really try. I'm not asking you to change, I said gently. I'm asking you to be honest about who you are. She nodded slowly. The silence between us wasn't hostile anymore. It was heavy, but truthful. Outside, guests laughed. Glasses clinked. Life moved on. Inside, the reckoning wasn't finished yet. Because ownership doesn't just change buildings. It changes dynamics. And the final shift was still coming. The final morning of the honeymoon arrived quietly. No arguments. No dramatic exits. Just the low hum of the ocean and the sound of carts rolling across the gravel paths outside. Vanessa packed in silence. I watched from the doorway of the office, not helping, not stopping her. We had already said the things that mattered. Everything else would have been filler. She zipped her suitcase and finally looked at me. What happens now? I didn't answer right away. I wasn't avoiding the question, I was respecting it. We go home, I said. And we stop pretending this week didn't show us who we really are. Her shoulders slumped. Are you saying this is over? I'm saying it can't go back, I replied. And anything new would have to be built without entitlement, without power games, without you needing to feel above me to feel secure. She nodded slowly, tears slipping down her cheeks. I don't know if I can be that person. I believed her. And for the first time, I didn't resent her honesty. Then this is where we stop, I said gently. She didn't argue. She didn't beg. She just nodded again, picked up her bag, and walked past me. At the door, she paused. You deserved better than how I treated you. I met her eyes. I know. And that was it. After she left, I didn't feel victorious. I felt clear. The days that followed were quiet but decisive. Vanessa's parents checked out early, avoiding eye contact. Mark left without saying goodbye. No explosions. No apologies. Just retreat. That told me everything. I stayed another week, not as a husband on honeymoon, but as an owner resetting his ground. I met with Kyle daily. We reviewed staffing schedules, maintenance upgrades, guest feedback. The motel wasn't just profitable, it was alive. Staff morale was strong. Guests returned. Respect, it turned out, was contagious when modeled correctly. One afternoon, Kyle said, "You okay?" I considered the question honestly. Yeah. For the first time in a long time. He smiled. Your grandfather would have liked that answer. On the final night before I left Clearwater Bay, I walked the property alone. I stopped outside room 12. The door was open. Housekeeping had finished early. The room was empty. Quiet. Clean. That room had been meant to diminish me. Instead, it clarified me. I closed the door gently and kept walking. Back home, the separation was simple. No public drama. No smear campaigns. Vanessa tried once to reframe the story among friends, subtle phrases, half-truths, but it didn't stick. People had seen enough. And I no longer chased narratives. I focused on building, my business, the motel, and myself. Months passed. The motel expanded. We renovated. Raised staff pay. Added community partnerships. Quiet success, the kind that didn't need applause. One afternoon, Thomas called. The trust's annual review is complete. Everything solid. Good, I said. He paused. Anything else you want adjusted? I thought of the honeymoon. The room. The silence. The truth. No, I replied. Everything's finally where it belongs. A year later, I returned to Clearwater Bay, not as a secret, not as a test, but as myself. I stayed in the best room, not because I needed it, but because I'd earned the right not to shrink. Sometimes guests recognize me. Sometimes they don't. Either way, I'm treated with respect, because I demand it quietly, consistently, without cruelty. And that's the real lesson. People don't reveal who they are when they think you're powerful. They reveal themselves when they think you're small. Before you go, if this story resonated with you, consider supporting the channel, subscribe, share where you're listening from, and help these stories reach others who need to hear them. Because sometimes the quietest people carry the biggest truths. And sometimes, the worst room tells you everything you need to know.